to steal Josh's line, and now for something completely different. 10cc. 10cc. I can't even make up how this band got their name. Do you want to take a guess as to what 10cc is, Matt, before we run the numbers?
Cubic centimeters? Does it have to do with some sort of drug dosage that a doctor would order? Give me 10 cc's of Ritalin stat.
You know what, Matt? It is a good guess because it is a measurement. So I'm guessing the cc is like what the 10cc would be.
Cubic centimeters.
Yep. Do you want to know what the 10cc stood for, though?
Is it something gross?
Yeah, it is something gross.
Is it a man thing? Is it a man
it
juice?
Sure is. You are all.
It's a human penis.
I can't believe you got it. It is. They were named after the average amount of ejaculate that a man has. 10cc is the average amount. I can't believe, Matt, that you got that, and clearly you didn't cheat, by the way, which makes it even more amazing.
John, I was picking up on your tone, and I was just going to where I thought you would be going. So
we have been friends for a long. I didn't know you'd go there. I didn't know it was that easy, but yeah. But when I said measurement, right? You know, it could only go so many. Josh went with the penis length measurement, which probably would have been where I went too. But Matt, you nailed it, my friend. So. Yeah. That is where it came from. So yeah, 10cc. Let's run the numbers, and I guess
I don't think dongs are measured in cubic centimeters, though.
No, I didn't know if they were being clever or something.
Got it. All right. Well, the numbers on this, it's not in Rolling Stone's list, so I need to hear from John why he picked this. It's number 667 on Best Ever Albums list of the 1970s, number 63 in 1974, number 3,718 of all time, and it's not even 10cc's highest ranked album on Best Ever Albums. It's actually their third highest ranked album.
Oh, wow.
So John, why did we listen to this?
It is on that 1001 Best Ever Album.
Okay.
Listen to You Die, so that was that. And I picked this one, unlike some of the others, because I wanted to pick at least one album for these cold listed hot takes where I had no context of the band at all.
Yes.
The name. This thing, it was one of the few albums on that list where I'm like, I haven't heard of these guys. I have no concept of what they're going to sound like. I have no context of their origin story, who might have been in it. It's like, you know how sometimes you guys go, I didn't know this band at all. That hasn't happened to me as much. I wanted an experience like that. So that's how 10C.
You got an experience.
Sure did.
I sure. So boy, this was an interesting one because I put it on. And the first track was pretty awesome. I was like, whoa, this is a pretty damn good song. And I was like, I wonder if this is what it's like. This is going to be a real hidden gem. And so I was with them for this one. And then the rest of the album happened. And the best I can describe this album as is this was like a proto They Might Be Giants album would be how I would describe this.
That's good. Yeah.
Is that that's my thing.
I have other artists that I came up with, but I didn't think of them. But that's true. Okay.
I mean, and I didn't see anything. You know, I didn't do much research at all, even before or after this, because I wanted
just
to
on the man juice.
That's the only. I just was curious, like where they're from and stuff. And in the first sentence, they said 10cc, named after the average. So, but I purposely didn't go into it because I'm like, I want to kind of do this one with even. You know, like I said, I really try to divorce myself from what I learn about it. So afterwards, but I wanted to go totally. So I was just like, that was my take. Like, this is like They Might Be Giants, like nerd geek rock kind of at times. It felt tongue in cheek, but in no way was it
absolutely.
Was it tongue in cheek in a way that made me laugh though? Like it wasn't.
Oh, really?
Like,
I thought it made me laugh.
No, it wasn't like the Harry Nilsson album, right, which made me laugh at different times, even the Randy Newman one at times, where it was there. This is also one of the few albums we've covered that I have absolutely no idea what you guys are going to think of this album. It has the that 70s pop rock sound that, you know, we did with the Flaming Groovies a little bit, and then like a Badfinger and Big Star, who we haven't covered yet. So it's in that lane a little bit, but with a hint of Randy Newman, a hint of like They Might Be Giants geek rock. And as a result, they write about bizarre topics. They're oddly like arrogant in their lyrics, which kind of is funny because I'm trying to figure out if they're tongue in cheek or if they're like they really believe this shit. And so, and they didn't they didn't give you any wink, wink, nod, nod, by the way, that like a lot of artists that do when they'll slip in stuff and you're like, I get it. Instead, they played it pretty straight while being absurd at the same time. So I once again, like the interesting thing, I was pretty sure Josh was going to catch it. I know Matt doesn't listen to lyrics, so I'm like, okay, so Matt's going to hear this as like probably like a power pop album, and Josh is going to hear this as sort of like either a subversive or a ridiculous album. And yeah, and I'll stop there because I'm fascinated to hear your I did not like this album, so I'll end with that. I was not a fan. I was not a fan of this album. I liked the first track quite a bit. I don't know if there's been any album where it was so clear what the song in the montage was going to be, because it was like the first one that I felt like this album fell off the cliff. But yeah, is it Matt next? I think, Matt, your take? I think Josh has kind of telegraphed a little bit what he thinks about it, but where'd you stand on this one?
So this is another album that's just really hard for me to comment on with one listen. The main takeaway that I have here is this is just so much of everything. There is just, they talk about, I mean, we've talked about albums before that throw a lot at the wall and let's see what sticks, and we've talked about albums that, vary time signatures and they vary sounds and it goes in different directions. This is all of that on steroids. This is like a song that's 3 minutes long that has about 12 different parts to it, and it doesn't seem, on one listen anyway, they don't seem to fit together. It just seems like random ideas thrown together. Let's try this, let's try that. So throughout the album, I just kept getting a variety of different, the first song sounds a little bit like Wings in the beginning, the third song, started off sounding a little like Paul Simon, like Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard, and then later on turned into Ouge Mutantes, and just like, I'm hearing Frank Zappa, I'm hearing Harry Nilsson, I'm hearing Queen, I'm hearing just so many different Allman Brothers. At the end, it was like a Southern rock jam that they were doing at the very end, so it's just like Santana, like the bongo drums like Santana. So it's just all this stuff, and I think I liked a lot of the different pieces that they were doing and like appreciated how unique they were, but they didn't stay on one thing for very long, and I couldn't really catch up with I'm like, okay, now it's here. So my brain kept having to like refocus on, okay, now what's this? And once I even got a little bit of a sense of what that was, now it's something different. So it's an exhausting album to listen to in that regard for me. It kind of reminded me of like a band, and it's interesting that this came up in my head, because I don't really listen to a whole lot of them, but it seemed to me that this is what Ween sounds like. It's just a lot of goofy...
Oh, yeah, they're in that geek rock, like They Might Be Giants. Yeah, they're the exact
they might
same
be,
lane.
And it's funny, because I'm more familiar with They Might Be Giants than Ween, but Ween came... I'm like, I bet you this is what Ween is like. So
it is. That's a really good one, too, Matt, yeah.
I can't say I don't like this. I was very impressed and like confused at the same time. It's just like, are these guys super creative and geniuses, or are they just like a bunch of, college kids messing around in the studio and just trying to like see if, like, hey, let's just mess with people. You know what I mean? So It's really hard to grasp. So I don't know how I feel about it. This is like a big fat question mark that would require probably multiple listens, but I don't know if I want to do that or not. So I might. I don't know. It's a question mark, but yeah, all over the place. Very interesting record. Maybe unnecessarily so.
Well, John's explanation of the name of the band really says it all. I think that is their kind of their ethos behind what this band is, and how
that's why I thought I had to share it, because it's like
and how seriously you should take it, and how seriously they take themselves. It's very self-aware. I was very entertained by this album, and I will listen to it again. Matt is right that there is a lot going on, and there is a lot going on in terms of lyrical content as well, which I definitely paid attention to. Now, the songs are completely disjointed in terms of there's no kind of thematic through line through these songs. There's one, the second song is called The Worst Band in the World, and they're talking about themselves. And they have a line in that saying, up yours, up mine, but up everyone takes time. And that is there's funny lines like that throughout the whole album. The first song that John liked, the Wall Street Shuffle, there's a line where it says, "Bet you'd sell your mother, you can buy another," and so things like that over and over again.
Yep.
The
well, it sounds like a Supertramp song. That song, by the way, it's like
Yeah.
it's like the logical song, but like in a different way. In a way, is how I thought listening to that. So
there is a lot of synth in this album, and I feel like this is kind of a progenitor of all synth pop in some way. They have very high pitched voices at times too, in that falsetto voice. The lyrics throughout reminded me of the Harry Nilsson album in terms of the tongue in cheekness, but they also throw in all sorts of other instruments with the synth. They're not afraid to genre bend and go from hard guitars and Silly Love, which is a little glam rock also, and then they, change lanes, like Matt said, and do a country sounding song in O Effendi. And I think Baron Samedi is named after a James Bond villain, so I don't know what that's about. But I only know of 10cc through the one song on the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. That's by far the number one song, most played song on Spotify for them. And
oh wow, I don't even know that one.
I don't even really like that song. So this I feel like gives me a much more clearer picture of what they're about, and I'm interested to see what those other two albums are like that Matt said are higher ranked, because I had a good time with this one, and I think that there is something there. But I do like artists that don't take themselves too seriously and kind of hide things, or have a sense of humor about them, and that's what this album has.
Well, that song on Spotify is called "I'm Not in Love." It's the highest. It's got over 192 million listens. The most listened to song on this album was the Wall Street Shuffle at just over 10 million. Okay.
So they have a song that has 192 million.
Yeah, it's
amazing to me that there could be I guess a lot of people watch Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Which I have not. Yep. So I mean, maybe that took it there. Yeah, wow.
It's on an album from 1975 called The Original Soundtrack, and that is their highest ranked album on Best Ever Albums at 511 in the 1970s.
Wow.
Yeah, this is such an idiosyncratic album that I can definitely see, why someone would disregard it or not be into it right away. But like those other bands, and I don't really know that they might be Giants or Ween by their music. I only kind of know them through reputation, and I definitely feel like this is in that same lane.
It's that, like, where it came to me is when I think of They Might Be Giants, and I think of, I didn't bring up Ween, but certainly they're in that group too. There's a couple others as well in that, and they're it's like that mid 80s to very early 90s where that genre I even, like, it's not true nerd rock, but even Pavement kind of came a little bit out of that world. And there's a certain type of guy I listen to, and key word being guy, I'd like to point out on that one, who would listen to those bands. And I feel that guy, right, was probably who was listening to 10cc. And I always kind of compared that sound to, they were sort of 80s take on, as Matt said, like that Frank Zappa sound, and they just extended it, because I feel like he was the although Zappa always seemed a lot cooler to me than like They Might Be Giants and Ween were, I feel like you could listen to, I'm probably gonna get myself I feel like you could have listened to Zappa and been cool in the 60s. I didn't know too many dudes that were like cool listening to, like, They Might, and almost it was like a badge of pride, to not be cool. And now it's funny, because now that type of guy that's like uncool is like almost mainstream now. So like it's hard to remember that they weren't like cool for a long time, because now it's sort of like, how do I say this without having people want to come for my head? Like the idea of
just
like reading comic books and being awkward with women and playing video games and stuff, and listening to like nerd rock, you know what I'm saying? Like that's now, there's a lot of dudes that are like that now, you know what I mean? And it's like, it seemed like there was so much more of a subculture back
John, do
then.
you think that comic book guy would like 10cc?
Like, I don't know if he's who I think of listening to They Might Be. I think of very educated guys, who go to, who went to college in the 80s, right? And like they they liked their guitars plugged a little bit, but they needed their music to be not mainstream because like the mainstream kids, like, you know, the metalheads and the burnouts like probably beat them up, and like the jocks probably beat them up. So like it's like
a lot of extrapolation,
stereotyping. Yeah, well, it's just, but it's, I mean, but I was stereotyping, but it also was kind of true because you talk to those dudes, and like these guys were all over the early internet. Right, like, and like I can remember in like 95, 96 when I was on the internet exploring stuff, the amount of people who had like signature lines that had like They Might Be Giants and like Ween and, you know, even early Weezer and Pavement and stuff, they were all over, and you'd see these guys, and they were the guys that were like all in on the early internet and like on Usenet groups and like flaming each other, but like, you know, spending a lot of time like moderating Usenet groups and stuff, like, and 10cc to me is like the guys that kind of were the 70s era, and there's always, and like I said, the only difference is it went from being on the fringes to like mainstream to have that personality because like nerd culture became mainstream. So yeah, not a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, nerd culture's never been mainstream till like the last 10 to 12 years when
Star
it's
Wars
mainstream.
rules.
Maybe
it started with Star Wars.
Now people trip over themselves to talk about how nerdy they are, right? Whereas, like, you never would have heard that when we were growing up, right? You went out of your way to, so.
Yeah, there's definitely a mainstreaming of nerd culture, and that's become kind of du jour. But, the title of this album is Sheet Music, in reference to sheets on a bed, too, which is clever. Because the album...
I didn't put two and two together on
that. The album cover
that.
has sheets on it.
Oh, that's
or
good.
pulling sheets away, it looks like, something like that, but...
Gross.
Yes, a lot of like, once again, like double entendre, like wordplay, another hallmark of the nerd rock genre. And if you go with the Pavement thing, right? Wowie zowie, slanted and enchanted, crooked, you know, it's like that's a big part of it.
Well, the weird thing is if you look on Spotify where it says fans also like, it's like not artists. You're not seeing any of these artists that we're talking about. It's Todd Rundgren, the Moody Blues, Badfinger you had mentioned.
Badfinger, yes. Like at the first two, I don't see at all. Unless there's
Robert Palmer, Joe Jackson.
Joe Jackson, yes. I can definitely see. Because Is She Going Out With Him? Is She Really Going Out With Him? Is a song you could see these guys writing, couldn't you?
ELO kind of falls a little bit. I could see that to an extent. Mott the Hoople, I don't really know them too well.
They're glam. They're like glam rock. They're all the young dudes.
I kind of thought that maybe Todd Rundgren was going to be like how these guys sound, or like kind of more out there than what he was doing, but
the Moody Blues, like what?
I don't.
Maybe there is no corollary with other.
Well, it's just what fans like. It's just what else they're listening to. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's exactly the same. But yeah, I don't know. Big question mark. If you want something different, you can certainly go here. You'll get it.
Let's see what All Music says artists that sound like them are.
Yeah, well, I'll just say whenever I tack one on to our cold list and hot takes, it always usually has a good discussion, doesn't it? So I should throw some more flaming randos.
I was just like where's... And I was throwing back, I was like, he picked the third highest one at Best Ever Album. Like, none of them are on Rolling Stone's list. I was like, wonder why this one. So
does it make you excited when you see one of those albums, Matt? Or are you like, God damn it, John, for putting this on there? Where do you
It's both. It's a little bit of both. At first, it's, God damn it, I got it. What is this? And then when I listen to it, I'm just like, okay, at least it's not like a straight ahead, regular kind of, it is. It's different.
Some of the other good adjectives that All Music has for them are campy and irreverent. So I think those are both true. It says they're similar to Supertramp, who I don't know very well.
I mentioned them. Yeah. I said that the one song sounds like the first song sounds like the logical song. One of the most, I mean, you probably will know Supertramp, Josh, without even realizing you know Supertramp.
I think we cover them, don't we? Don't we do a
We'll
Supertramp?
probably do Breakfast in America.
I know that one like famous song of theirs, but that's about it.
Like, what would you think if your mind was so logical? It was like, it's like, very much like what I think of with that, this song. So it's funny that they mentioned that because I did no research because I purposefully did not want to draw reference points and be led anywhere. I was just like, this is what I think it sounds like. So